We're going to
I,
start now.
I started the recording just so I wouldn't forget, but yeah, you can go
That's
ahead.
a good idea, because I used to have to put a Post-it note on my forehead so I'd see it to record. And then I don't know, it was hit and miss at best. So it's been really nice to have you remember. And I'll just have to edit this out. That's all. No. Or everybody will get to listen to this too.
I think it's fine.
So we are about to start. So you could put your county or your league or your legislative district, something that just kind of identifies you at a spot in the state, someplace, so that we can see that we come from a lot, all over the state. That's really nice to see. Awfully quiet out there.
I think you can.
That's the longest minute I think I've ever seen. Yeah.
I think you can start.
There we go. Okay, so I get to say it now. It's 10 o'clock. Welcome to ACTV Zoom number 6 for 2023. I'm really so glad that so many of you can be here today. It's going to be a very busy week for League members, but this is the kickoff. So I'm Carol Sullivan, the facilitator, and Cindy Madigan is the wonderful co-host. If you can mute yourself, please, and then rename yourself with your county, your city, your league, your legislative district. As I said, someplace that identifies you where you are in the state. You can also add your indigenous lands in chat, and then we're reminded of whose land we live, work, and play on. So this morning, again, I sent out a reminder, and in that email is another opportunity to register for Lobby Week, which begins really kind of like right now, but more formally this evening. There's also a link to the recording of last week's ranked choice voting for presidential primaries session, which was quite lively. Lots of information there. There's also a flyer at the bottom for the Clean Energy Future series with Citizens Climate Lobby host Betty Carteret. The first one was last Tuesday, but there are 4 more, and it's such good information about our future, or our children and grandchildren's future, maybe to be more precise, but it's something you really wouldn't want to miss. Betty's an excellent presenter, and there's lots of information that's crammed into these 1-hour sessions that are on the last Tuesday of now, February, March, April, and May. So today we begin Democracy Lobby Week, and I'm going to be introducing you to Laura Love, who is the Legislative Information Center Manager. Laura is originally from New England, but has been in the Pacific Northwest, Olympia to be specific, since 2005. Laura's worked in the nonprofit sector, contracted with DSHS, I think I got that straight, and completed a year of service with AmeriCorps Vista Volunteer Program. With previous legislative experience with the Senate Committee Services and a degree from Evergreen State College, Laura joined the Legislative Information Center in 2019 as an information specialist, and she became manager in 2021. The LIC provides copies of legislative documents, answers questions about the legislative process and current legislative activities, and offers a variety of classes designed to help us become better acquainted with the legislature and its operations. Laura is committed to connecting people with the information they need, and that commitment extends to being here today with audio only, because Laura is homesick today. Because of Zoom, she can be with us. So my very special thanks, Laura, for being with us this morning. I would not be a very adequate guide to the legislative process or the website, and there is so much to offer there. Oh, one other thing. Laura is the parent of an adult child with a disability, and when not working, they can be found camping or swimming in one of Washington's beautiful but chilly lakes. So the video that we are going to see Understanding the legislative process and how a bill becomes a law has a lot packed into 12 minutes. It's going to pay you to get a piece of paper out and jot down questions as they go along, because it goes by fast. You kind of hang on because we're ready for a ride. And as soon as I find it again, we did this once and I should be able to do it again. Okay, hang on.
While you're looking for that, I just want to say I am going to show you where you can get this video. So if it does go by fast, you'll be able to watch it as many times as you want on your own. It is posted on our website.
Okay, now why am I? It's because this is up here across my screen.
You can move that, Carol, if you just grab it,
Right, come
grab
on.
it and move that bar away
Thank
from you.
because this is where
Yeah.
I want. I knew it was there. Where did it go? Help me, help. All right, here we go. And I'm going to enlarge this. So you see Laura right off the bat here, if we get to see her anyway. And I think this will just work. This is going to be about 12 minutes, as I said. So, and as I said, it goes by really fast, lots of information. I'm sure you're going to have questions, but we'll answer them after this video plays. Just Laura of a little stress today too. Here we go.
Welcome to Legislative Support Services Understanding the Legislative Process class. My name is Laura Love, and I'm the manager of the Legislative Information Center. A little throwback to high school civics. There are three branches of the government: legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislative branch writes the laws, the executive branch enforces the laws, and the judicial branch interprets the laws. This is an oversimplification of these branches, as they do a lot more. The legislative branch is called the first among equals because it writes our state laws and authors our state constitution. The legislature works on a biennium. This is a 2-year cycle. It's important to know that bills not passed in the first year of the biennium are carried over to the second year. According to our state constitution, regular sessions begin the second Monday in January. The first year of regular session is a long session. Long sessions last 105 days, and this is when the legislature creates the biennial budget. The second year of a biennium is a short session. Short sessions last 60 days, and this is when the legislature creates supplemental budgets. The first year is always an odd-numbered year. The second year is an even-numbered year. We also have special session. Special sessions can be called by the governor, or the legislature can call themselves into a special session, with 2/3 majority vote in both chambers. Special sessions can last up to 30 days and we can have multiple special sessions. There are 49 districts in Washington state, equal in population. Every 10 years after the national census is done, the data is compiled and an independent redistricting commission redraws the districts to make sure they're still equal in population. Washington state has a bicameral legislature. This means we have 2 chambers. We have the Senate and the House of Representatives. Each district has 1 senator that serves a 4-year term and 2 representatives that serve 2-year terms. Election of members is done in even-numbered years. Every election cycle, half of the Senate seats and all of the representative seats are up for election. Chambers are the official halls for the meeting of a legislative body. Chambers are controlled by the caucus or political party in power. Caucuses are a group of legislators and staff who unite to promote an agreed upon agenda, influence policy, and decide on questions of leadership. Typically, these take the form of political parties. You may have heard of Senate Democrats, Senate Republicans, House Democrats, and House Republicans, but there are many caucuses, and members from different caucuses can join to form a coalition. The majority caucus wields the most power. Due to the vast amount of bills that can be introduced in session, the House and Senate have legislative committees to help decide which bills will move forward in the process. There are policy committees, fiscal committees, and the Rules Committee, although the Rules Committee functions differently than the other standing committees. Our Constitution states that laws will be made by an elected legislature. Laws can also be made directly by the people through the initiative process. Our Constitution states the first power reserved by the people is the initiative, and that is the direct power to enact new laws or change existing laws. We also have a referendum process that gives voters an opportunity to approve or reject laws proposed or enacted by the legislature. In Washington state, we also have advisory votes. These are non-binding measures that let the people say whether the legislature should repeal or maintain revenue-generating bills. Another way to think about the advisory vote is as an opinion poll. It lets the elected members know how the people feel about the bills that have already passed and are often already enacted. We also have bills. Bills are proposed legislation from members, and we're about to jump into how a bill becomes a law in Washington state. Every bill starts as an idea in someone's head, and the idea gets written down and submitted to the code reviser. The code reviser's office takes the written idea and puts it in a draft bill format. This draft bill needs to have an elected member sponsor it before it moves on. Once the bill has a sponsor or sponsors, it goes back to the code reviser's office where it is turned into a real bill with its official 4-digit bill number. House bills are numbered 1,000 through 3,999, and Senate bills are numbered 5,000 through 7,999. Now that you know this, you can look at a bill number and tell whether it came from the House or Senate. We also have companion bills. Companion bills are when the exact same piece of legislation is introduced in both chambers. They are identical when they're filed. According to our state constitution, members can pre-file bills. This means even though session doesn't start until the second Monday in January, members can start pre-filing bills the first Monday in December. All the pre-filed bills are introduced on the first day of session. After a bill has been filed, it gets its first reading. This is the introduction of the bill on the floor. The bill is read in a pro forma session. Pro forma means as a matter of form. In its first reading, it's assigned to a standing committee. In the committee, the bill gets a chance to have a hearing. If it gets a hearing, this is when public testimony is taken. Committees can also have work sessions. Work sessions are an informal discussion of a measure or topic by a committee. No action or testimony is taken on a bill in a work session. Committees also have executive sessions. They can take executive action on a bill, offer a substitute bill, refer the bill to another committee. If a bill has a $50,000 fiscal impact, it has to go to a fiscal committee after a policy committee. And even if a bill got a hearing, the committee could still take no action on it. And they can refer the bill to the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee is the process by which bills are made eligible to be placed on the floor calendar for a second reading. Bills generally go through a two-step rules process. Rules Review in the House and Rules White in the Senate are the same step with different names. These are all the bills in the initial rules stage. Rules Consideration in the House and Rules Green in the Senate are the same step with a different name. This is the list of bills pulled from the Review and White that are eligible to go to the floor. Rules X files are a list of bills unlikely to go to the floor. However, bills can be pulled from X files to the floor. The second reading is when the committee substitutes are offered, and the whole chamber decides by vote which version of the bill to move forward. At the second reading, floor amendments may be offered. There are page and line amendments. For instance, on page 3, line 16, change this to that. There are also striker amendments. These amendments erase everything after the enacting clause and inserts new language. A bill becomes engrossed when floor amendments are adopted in the chamber of origin. After the second reading, the bill can go back to the Rules Committee, or the rules can be suspended and it can be moved directly into a third reading. The third reading is the last vote a bill needs to pass in its chamber of origin before moving to the opposite chamber. In the opposite chamber, the bill goes through the same process as in the chamber of origin. It gets read on the floor and assigned to a committee. It has a chance to get a public hearing and move through standing committee and rules process to a second and third reading onto the opposite chamber floor. One of the differences from the chamber of origin process is that the opposite chamber cannot amend a bill. They can only propose amendments on a bill. If the opposite chamber passes the bill without offering amendments, then the bill moves on in the process. If a bill has been amended by the opposite chamber, the chamber of origin must decide whether it will concur with the amendments. Leadership decides which bills returned from the second chamber will be discussed and places those bills on the concurrence calendar. If the chamber of origin concurs with the amendments, the bill has passed the legislature. If the chamber of origin disagrees with the amendments, they can ask the opposite chamber to recede from the amendments. If the opposite chamber recedes from their amendments, the bill has passed the legislature. If the chambers do not concur with or recede from amendments, either may request a conference committee and the other may agree. It is not required that the chambers ask or agree to this process. If they do, each chamber assigns members to meet and come to an agreed upon version of the bill. If they agree, the conference committee makes a report. Both chambers must adopt the conference committee report for the bill to pass the legislature. If one or both chambers do not adopt the conference committee report, whether by vote or inaction, the bill has not passed. If both chambers pass the conference committee report, the bill has passed the legislature. It is signed by the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House, and it moves on to the governor's desk for governor action. The governor has a few options when it comes to executive action on a bill. They can sign the bill or veto the bill. They can veto a full bill or an entire section in a bill. And in budget bills, the governor can even veto line items. They also have the option to do nothing. Unlike the federal process, where if the president doesn't sign a bill, it does not pass, bills become law in Washington state with or without the governor's signature. The governor has 5 days to act on a bill, and we count Monday through Saturday and state holidays. Sunday is not counted. If a bill is delivered to the governor's desk within the last 5 days of session, they have 20 days to act on it. Bills generally are effective 90 days after the last day of session. Bills can have different effective dates if it's specified in the bill. Some bills have emergency clauses in them, and this language states that the bill will take effect immediately. Bills with emergency clauses are not subject to referendum or advisory votes. Because session is a limited amount of time and there is a lot of work to do, the legislature adopts a cutoff calendar. This relates calendar days to the days of session and creates deadlines for when bills need to be passed each step of the process. Bills necessary to implement the budget are not subject to the same cutoff deadlines. The order of the cutoff dates goes with the process. First, bills must be out of the Chamber of Origin Policy Committee, then Fiscal Committee, then out of the Chamber of Origin. After that, opposite chamber policy and fiscal committees, and out of the opposite chamber. Finally, the last cutoff day is the last day of session, sine die. Most importantly, if you have questions or need assistance, we can help you find answers or point you in the right direction. You can call Legislative Support Services Legislative Information Center at 360-786-7573 or email us at support@leg.wa.gov. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Wow, there's a lot to it. And that is a different video than the one I originally saw a year or so ago, Laura. So, and I like this one because it was very inclusive. I have not had an opportunity to look in chat, but I had one question. Maybe I'll start where did I put it? I can't find it. So I'll find it later. I know I had a question, but now I've forgotten. Oh, I know. When that bills came raining down, how many bills came raining down into 2023? Anybody, Laura, do you have an answer to that, or anybody else?
To how many bills are currently here?
Yeah, how many were filed since the 1st of December, approximately, I guess.
So for House bills, including today's, it's going to be 776 House bills. And let me just jump into the Senate intros for today, along with 712 Senate bills, and that's not including their joint memorials or resolutions or any of those. So close to 1,500 already.
Okay, so that's a lot of bills. Yeah. So thank you. That helps. Let's see. I'm looking back at chat now. And yes, it was a very fast video, and Laura can show us where you find it on the legislative session. So I think, and there's a question about At what stage in the bill process is written testimony that the public submits read by legislators?
So the written submissions are open for 24 hours after the start of a committee hearing. So you can only sign up to testify or get your position noted for 1 hour before. But that written testimony is open for 24 hours after. As soon as that closes, so if we had a committee hearing this morning at 10 a.m., tomorrow at 10 a.m., that written testimony would close and all of that testimony would immediately become available to the members.
Is it ever available to the public then, or does it just stay?
It is a public record. The written testimony, so I'll show you how you can see if you signed up for a bill. The written testimony doesn't show on the website like the login information does, but all of that written testimony is public records, and it can be requested either through the public records office or through the committee assistant of the committee that it is being heard in. And just to speak on the difference in the video, this is a new video that I did with our Legislative Support Services video department. Carol saw a version that was based on a PowerPoint, and because it is so much information, I do like to offer that PowerPoint. We send it as a PDF, but if you email support@leg.wa.gov, we can get you that PowerPoint presentation in a PDF so you can scroll over it at your own. People, it's been really popular with folks who are like, that went by so fast and you just went through the whole legislative process in 12 minutes and it takes legislators 105 days. So no way you got that all in 12 minutes.
So a question from Gretchen. At which point or points in the process is it best to chime in as a citizen?
So I can't speak to best, but I can tell you before a bill is assigned to a committee, anything that you send in is just going to get an automatic response that says, thanks, this isn't in front of me. So I would, if it was me, when it was assigned to a committee, I might contact the committee staff and, to say I would like or not like this bill to get a hearing. That is that whether or not a bill gets a hearing is mostly entirely up to the chair of that committee. So if you really felt strongly for or against the bill, you could email the chair and say, hey, this is why this is important and why I think it should or should not get a hearing. Once it is scheduled for a public hearing, that's when you're able to submit testimony for the public bill file. So anything that you say in committee or any of those written comments, those are all going to be accessible to the legislators in that committee as well as the public file. Once it comes out of committee, that is when, if it was me, if I was allowed to have opinions on bills, which I don't, I have no opinions on bills. So at that point, when it goes to a second reading on the floor, that is when it will, if your district legislators aren't on the committee it was going through, that's the first point that your district legislators will have a chance to say something. So on a second reading, I would contact my own district legislators and say, this is why I oppose or support this bill, and this is why I want you to vote yes or no on it, and this is why, it's important to our district, or whatever it is you want to say about that. Same thing for a third reading. It's going to go to all the members. So contacting your district legislators is probably the most effective way to go from there. Then it goes through the same process in the opposite house. So same thing. I would look at what committee it was assigned to in the opposite chamber, and I might contact that chair and say, hey, this is why I support or oppose this bill. This is why I think it should or shouldn't get a public hearing in your committee. Then you have another chance to submit public testimony on the bill if it gets a public hearing. And then same thing, second and third reading, I would contact my own legislators in the opposite chamber. So, if it was a Senate bill that went to the House, at that point, I would contact my representatives and say, hey, this is why I support or oppose this bill. That's the second and third reading. And then the last stop would be to contact the governor's office, actually, if it passed the legislature. And you could say, this is why I think you should sign or veto this bill. So those are all the different steps and all the different places that you could contact that would be the most effective based on where it is in the process.
Thank you, Laura. We also have a question from Pam. How does the pull process work?
So I think you're talking about the rules process, pulling them from, yeah. So it's actually kind of funny because it's always been open to the public, but it's been somewhat like, I don't want to say unannounced, but kind of unknown before the pandemic hit. And then they started televising them on TVW. And so many more people were able to see how that process works. Basically, the members of the Rules Committee are told beforehand by leadership how many bills they'll get to choose. So if we were all legislators on the Rules Committee, we might get an email from leadership saying you can pull 2 bills from the white to the green, or you can pull 2 bills to the floor. And then we, based on, our own political intentions, based on our party, based on our districts, would figure out what bills we wanted to pull to go on to the next part of the process. That being said, occasionally you will see leadership pull things out of rules or pull things out of committee, and that's just a suspension of the rules. It's not like part of the regular process. It's leadership going, okay, we need to move these bills on to the next step.
Great, thank you. What is the cutoff date for bill filing? I noticed that we're still seeing bills being filed. Is there a cutoff date where no more bills can be introduced?
So no, there's not. And because we're at the first year of the biennium, anything introduced this session, at the end of session, one of the last things they'll do is they'll hold every bill currently in the session at the farthest point in the process they've gone in their chamber of origin, and they all hold. So if a Senate bill was in the House at the end of this session, because we're in the first year and it didn't move on, it would start the next session at its 3rd reading in the Senate. So that bill would start off having already done that first part of the process and move on. So every bill in this session that doesn't get passed will automatically be introduced in the 2nd year of the biennium. So that's why particularly in this year, you'll see bills being introduced maybe on the last day of session either. It's just kind of a way to get a little jump on pre-filing for the next session. Okay, so that's the official answer. If you want a bill read in this session and to pass in this session, it really has to be out of the committee on the cutoff date. There are ways to suspend the rules. Occasionally you'll see a bill past cutoff date, it'll be deemed necessary to implement the budget, and they will get it through a committee and get it moving really quickly. But for most bills, that deadline is going to be the House of Origin Policy Committee cutoff or the House of Origin Fiscal Committee cutoff, depending on whether or not it starts in a fiscal or policy committee.
Great, good. Yeah, so we will request a copy of that link to the video and send that out in the follow-up for this email, I think. So you all have it in Carol's excellent follow-ups. So there's a question about Democracy Week in a general evening session. So if you've registered for Lobby Week, check your email. You should have gotten an email from Susan Fleming, our League of Women Voters Washington Advocacy Chair, with the link for the evening sessions. Fortunately, we have one link for all the sessions, so it should be in that email. So you, hopefully you'll be able to find that. I hope that answers that question. And oh, this is a good question. Michelle asked, is there a flow chart available of the process?
There is not a flow chart that I am aware of from the legislature. No.
Okay. Okay. And Karen asked, is there public testimony in executive sessions? And then the second part of that question, public testimony in Ways and Means hearings.
So there is never testimony taking in an executive session. An executive session is just the portion of the committee hearing in which they move bills. The public testimony is taken in the public hearing, and Ways and Means do have public hearings on bills in them. So if the bill is scheduled for a public hearing, whether it's in Ways and Means or any other committee, you can sign up to give testimony or submit written testimony on it.
Okay.
If
Good.
when we run out of questions, Cindy,
Mhm.
Laura, we often ask people to sign in pro for a committee hearing. And I was wondering if you would share your screen and show us all the little things that you can find out, all the information you can get. Most importantly, have I signed in twice for this bill? Because some of us do that. I've been guilty of it more than once. And there's a way to find out if you have signed up so that you don't do that. You're not a repeat offender anyway. Could you do that for us?
Yes, I actually chose a bill at random that has a hearing today. And so what I'm planning to do is look that up on the bill information page, show you how to find out where is the committee, then show you how to sign in the committee, about legislative accounts, because you can create an account, which if you are going to log in a lot, will actually autofill some of your information. And that way you also have access to edit your own sign-in history up until 1 hour before the meeting starts.
Ooh, that's good.
So
That's a good one to see. I'd like to see that too.
Yes,
I think I
yes.
definitely need that. I've had to check. Am I registered to testify for this bill or not? You know.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Do we want to do that now, Carol, and then come back to
I think,
questions?
are we done? I think we're pretty
No,
much done with.
there's several more questions,
Oh,
so
excuse
it's
me.
up to you.
Then please.
No
let's ask
problem.
Let's
Okay.
ask those.
All right. Deborah asked, do some bills advance through both houses at this point in the session?
I believe at this point in session, there are bills that have passed the one chamber and are going into the next chamber already, yes. And you could see those in their daily introductions. You'll notice that they start up until this point, it's really been Senate introducing Senate bills and House introducing House bills. And around now, actually, you'll start seeing on those introductions, House bills in the Senate and Senate bills in the House.
Okay. And Alpana, I'm not sure I understand your question, but do we have to keep an eye on the bills where they are to contact the House and Senate representatives? I'll answer for the League, and also I know Cindy Black is here from Fixed Democracy First. We do a legislative newsletter every week that kind of does that for you. If you subscribe to that, you can see the process of the bills and on a grid of the ones the League supports. So did you want to clarify your question, Alpana?
Yeah, I wanted to know, I know that we can also see online, go to that website and find out where is the bill right now, but is there any other way quickly that we will know the bill is there in that committee? Or we have to research? I do personally my own research. Is there any other way?
If
So-
there's
Oh.
a bill that you are really interested in, you can sign up to get notifications on it. So you can actually put in your email address and say, let me know when this bill moves. And that way, especially if you're going to track more than one, you don't have to go look at every one. You'll have an automatic email sent to you saying, this bill was scheduled for a public hearing. This bill was scheduled for an executive session.
Mhm.
This bill moved out of executive session. This bill's been scheduled in the opposite chamber. So there's actually a mechanism in our legislative website to sign up for those notifications and not have to look up every single bill. And I will show you that when we do our little website tutorial.
Yeah,
Great.
I have seen that. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, question from Julia. In general, how many bills successfully pass in a given session?
I would say generally, and this is just speaking really, it varies significantly, but I would say a couple hundred, 200 to 500 maybe pass in any session. And I would say a couple thousand maybe are introduced. So
Mhm.
it is.
Okay.
I once had a old-time lobbyist tell me that bills are like salmon swimming upstream. A lot of them try, but not all of them make it.
That's great. Yes, yeah. All right, question from Carolyn. Where and when does funding associated with a bill get determined?
Yeah, so as soon as the bill is scheduled in a, or not scheduled, as soon as it's assigned to a committee, the committee staff can request a fiscal note. And so then that bill gets sent to a state department. So if you have friends in state departments that do fiscal notes, you'll notice even though they're not in the legislature, there's little clouds of confusion and stress above their heads already, because it's their job to then say, based on the information they have on this bill, what impact it will have on the budget. And then if it has an impact on the budget, then it goes to a fiscal committee, and those fiscal committees are really in charge of the funding of those bills and where it will go in the budget.
Great, good. Question from Julia. After a bill becomes law, how does one find out how, in what way, for example, where, under what entity, et cetera, it was implemented? That is, as a law, if someone wants to see, for example, how effective it is.
That is a fantastic question. Wow. I don't generally get them this detailed. So way to go, Julia. So we have a cross-reference, which will tell you what RCWs a bill either created or changed or impacted. And then some of those RCWs, so it won't work for all of them, but some of them are associated with state departments, and they have to make Washington administrative codes on them. And if they are associated with a department like that, they generally, not always, but generally have to do some sort of reporting back to the legislature. And all those reports to the legislature are available on our website. And we're not going to be able to get into all the technical stuff like that, but if you send an email to support@leg.wa.gov and say, where are the reports to the legislature on the website? How do I find this thing? Whatever your question is, we respond to those. I don't think that, since I've been here in 2019, I don't think we've ever responded to an email that came in by 4:30 p.m. the next day. I mean, we are really quick to respond to those, and we try and get them basically immediately. Sometimes it might take an hour or two given our capacity and how busy our office is, but support@leg.wa.gov for any of your questions, and we will get back to you quickly.
I want to answer another question that someone asked. Does the league put, or it was Gretchen asked, does the league put all bills open to comment in the legislative alert, or only the bills on which we have a position? Well, they are really the ones that we take a position on. They may not be all the bills that we could take a position on, but we just can't physically be in all these different places at once. I know Cindy and I have both tried to figure out, how can we be at 2 committee hearings at the same time, one in the House and one in the Senate, testifying on a bill. And I've been in line waiting for Cindy to get from another committee, and she would have had that opportunity tomorrow, but one of my bills got canceled. So, hey, I can do it. I don't have to be in 2 places at the same time. So we are selective. We take just the bills that the league has a position on and that we can back up with our position in action statements from the state and from the National League. So we aren't just picking willy-nilly from those 1,000 bills that are available. Is that,
Yeah.
saying that right, Cindy?
Yes, that's great, Carol. Thanks. That's why we have a lobby team, because it takes a team for sure. So I had a question from Carol. Can we testify on the same bill when it has moved to a new committee, i.e. each time it progresses?
Yes. And Laura answered that in the chat. Yes.
Oh, good.
time
Excellent.
that
Thank you.
Yeah, we get
Thank
that
you.
same opportunity too. I like that, because if I've said it to one committee and in the Senate, I can say it to the same counterpart in the House, and I don't necessarily have to write a whole new testimony. You can keep recycling. I love to recycle, especially when it
Also-
comes to bill testimony. It's perfect.
Also, if you went to a hearing and you thought you felt one way about a bill, and you heard the staff talk on it, and you heard the State Department talk on it, and you said, oh no, I've changed my opinion on this, you could go to the next public hearing and sign in completely different than you did the first one and tell them why you've changed your opinion. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Yes, yes. And I see you also answered this one in chat. If my rep is not on the committee for a bill I feel strongly in favor of, can I ask my rep to sign on as a co-sponsor? And you mentioned there's a limited amount of time to co-sponsor. And I would also add that um, um, the reps or senators don't necessarily need to be on that committee to sign in as a sponsor.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Right.
Yeah, they don't have to be on the committee to sponsor. So what happens is there's a deadline. I think it's 10 a.m. in the House and noon in the Senate that you drop a bill today for it to get introduced tomorrow. And then once it's introduced, they usually have, I think, until 2 p.m. the following day to sign on. So you would have to be watching those introductions and really be there in that first little bit and like have a way to make sure, you know, call their office until they actually pick up the phone and say, hey, I want you to co-sponsor this. But they don't need to co-sponsor a bill to support it.
Are
Great
we ready
question.
for the screen share from Laura?
I think we are. Yes.
am so
Yes, we're
excited to
ready
find
to
out how
show.
I
Yes.
can
Thank
censor
you, Laura.
myself.
Go for it.
All right. And I'm apologize. I keep on muting because I'm either coughing or sneezing, trying not to do it on the recording. So if I just take an awkward pause, that is what is happening here. So this is our main page, ledge.wa.gov, and I have chosen a bill at random 5465 because I just looked in the agendas for this afternoon and picked one. So to find a bill's information page, we're going to go to this left-hand menu, bill information. And it is important to realize that when you look at this screen from your phone or a tablet, it might minimize it. So if you don't see this little legislature menu right here on the left, what you might see is a little button that says menu. That will pop this out for you. But we're going to go to bill information. And these are our standard and advanced reports. Right up here, we have search by bill number. You just put in the 5 or 4 digits of the bill. HB or SB will return an error. So once you have the bill you're looking at, you hit the search button. And that is going to take you to this bill's information page. I told you I would tell you where you can sign up to get email notifications. On the bill's information page to the right of this graphic, you can click get email notifications. It'll take you to the Gov delivery system. You'll put in your email address and hit submit, and then you will start getting those notifications on a bill. From this page, you can also comment on this bill. It's important to know when you use the comment on this bill feature, it goes to your district legislators. So like I said, if your district legislators, if it's not on a second or third reading, if they're not on the committee, they might give you just a form response that says, thank you for your opinion. If this bill comes in front of me, now I know how you feel about it, basically. So you can comment on a bill here, but it just goes to your district legislators. It gives you the title of the bill, the sponsor and co-sponsors, and if there's a companion bill, the companion bill will be their companion bill. As we scroll down, this is where you're going to see where this bill is scheduled. So it goes in the history from the first to the most recent. So it had its first reading on January 19th, and most recently it is scheduled today for a public hearing in the Senate Committee on Ways and Means. We can see it already had a public hearing in the Senate Committee on Business, Financial Services, and Gaming. If you click in here, you can actually look at the committee materials. So you can see the bill report, bill text, bill history. If there's a fiscal note, you'll be able to get the fiscal note from there as well. Oftentimes, if they are recommending a substitute version of a bill, you can also see that here. And again, I got to this page by clicking this little committee materials link that is to the right of the committee. You can see how it was voted out. So a majority voted to do pass, and it was referred to Ways and Means. So if you're looking to sign up to testify or submit your testimony on a bill, what you're going to want to know is that bill number and then the date and time of the meeting.
Laura, can I interrupt just one thing before you go next? Up to the top where it says get email notifications, and what is RSS notifications?
It is something that we keep on there for people who are used to it from years ago. It's basically before we had email notifications. It's a way to get notifications offline. So just ignore it if you haven't been here for 15 years and that's the thing that you're stuck on using. To get email notifications is really what you want. There's a few things on here that are here because people are used to using them, and we want to make it friendly. Even as we evolve technologically, we still want folks to have access to some of the information. Like there's something called a leader offline report, which literally exists from a day when people would have bills hanging on walls, and you would walk in with your amendment and look at all the bills physically to try and see if your amendment would come from before we had the internet.
Great. Thank you for that clarification and the interruption.
Oh, no worries. So useful pro tip is no matter where you are on our website, this little top Washington State Legislature banner will bring you back to our main page. So if you got somewhere and you're lost and you're like, I don't know how I get back, hit that and you'll go directly back to the homepage. To sign up, you're going to want to go to participating in the process. That's going to be the right-hand menu, second under let your voice be heard. Excuse me. So we're going to click that participating in the process button. And then from here, we're on the right-hand menu, participating in a committee hearing. Again, pro tip, no matter what you choose here, it takes you to the same place. So we're just going to hit testifying in a committee hearing. So all three of those links are going to take you to the committee sign-in page. So this is when it's important to know, was it in the House or Senate? And the bill that I chose randomly is in the Senate. Then you're going to want to use this little drop-down menu, and you'll choose the committee that it's in. Once you choose that committee, the meetings that are scheduled will auto-populate here. We're going to choose today's. And then, oh yeah, 5465. That's choosing a bill at random is hard to remember sometimes. So then once you have the committee date and time, the agenda will pop down and you will actually click this little button next. Once you do that, you have some options. Would you like to testify in person? Would you like to testify remotely? Would you like to get your position noted for the legislative record? So that's when you're signing in just pro or con, and you're not putting any other testimony with it. You're just saying yes or no. And then I would like to submit written testimony. You'll also notice, see who has signed in for this agenda item. That's what you're going to want to click to see if you have signed in for this agenda item. And all the folks, so again, this is going to be people who are testifying will be first. And then people who are not testifying, who have just put in that pro or con, will be here in the not testifying. And then you can scroll down and say, oh, look, there I am, Brad Jones. Yep, I'm signed in to testify. And that way you know that you're in there.
Laura, can you also show them how you can double click? I was going to say you can double click on the name, right? And that will put the names in alphabetical order, which is a good way to see if you've signed in twice.
So yeah, the top header
Down
here,
below,
if you click it,
especially, yeah.
I believe you can also search your name.
Oh, right. Good. Oh,
So then
see, there's
can,
an example.
Right there, yep.
Signed in twice.
And yeah, either there are two Brad Jones or Brad Jones is signed in twice. Oh, that's funny.
Well, we, like many advocacy groups, are sending kind of a shortcut to sign in and kind of bypasses all those steps that you illustrated for us. So I can see how easy that is if you're getting requests from multiple organizations to sign in to support.
Are there any people signed in con against for that particular vote, Laura? Can you show us that? I know that's on there too, and there's a way to see that.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
can. So I just hit, just like you hit the name and it does it alphabetically. If you hit position, it'll give you, so there's no one con, but there are two others.
And no cons?
Nope.
Okay. This obviously is not a gun safety legislation.
Here's the marketing. I try and choose things not hot topic buttons for trainings, because oftentimes I'll get derailed if I choose something that's too spicy. So just some things to note. all of the instructions are down here. There's information about testifying, just some important things. You should get, when you sign up, if you sign up to testify either remotely or in person, you will get a Zoom link. And that's because even if you're signing up to testify in person, we are still in this pandemic thing. So you might get sick and still want to testify. And so you'll still be able to testify remotely, even if you signed up to testify in person. If to testify. It is also worth noting not everybody who signs up to testify gets to testify. For a number of different reasons, you could sign up to testify and not be chosen. But if your name was chosen and you ended up being sick and you wanted to testify from your living room instead of in person, you would have access to that Zoom link. That link should come within 1 to 2 minutes of signing up. If it is not there in 1 to 2 minutes of signing up, check your junk folder. You can use your email search to search for the committee title. So if you searched Ways and Means, the Zoom link comes from Zoom, but the title is like Ways and Means February 6th. And then you can see who for this agenda item to see whether or not maybe there was a glitch in the system. However, I am going to go through this and we're going to say we'd like to testify remotely. You can put in all of your information here. At several points, you'll notice to the right, this green login button. If you are going to be submitting testimony, signing up pro or con routinely, it might be worth creating a legislative account. So if you hit this little login button, so here, if you don't have an account, you can sign up now. This is the confusing part for people. They put in their email and they do all of this stuff and they're like, look, it's not, isn't the create. You have to send a verification code to this email and then you have to copy and paste that verification code in here. So you'll send the verification code and then it will pop up, what's that verification code? And
There's a question, Laura,
Yeah.
there's a question. When you select the meeting that you want to testify, you showed an example where there were 3 choices of time and day. And I know that the way you find the one you want to select is because on that bill information page, it's going to tell you what committee and what time. And those are just the listing of the 3 hearings that that particular committee had this week. And you have to just know. And if you don't know, there's a place that says what the committee's agenda is. See your bill on it, then you've got the wrong committee. Yeah, see, there's the 3 that you could select. You knew you wanted today's.
Based on that bill information
If you
history.
went to 7, you wouldn't find 5, 6, 5, 8, 6, 4.
Yeah, you wouldn't find the bill you were looking for. You'd have a completely different list and you'd be like, wait, none of these are my bill. So you
Wouldn't
could
find your
either
bill.
from there go back to the bill information page, or you could look at the other, oh, look, there it is. Whoops, I just had the wrong date.
And we did answer Deborah's question about finding out how many are signed in pro or con. There isn't a number right there, but what I usually do is go from the first, sort them, and then go to the bottom, the number of people who have signed in, like to page 9, and work my way back and see how many are signed in con. And then you can subtract from the 204. Well, there are 204 that are signed in pro, so there's no math involved in that one, really.
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
Sir, hand raised. Do you have another question, Deborah, or you need follow-up?
Yes, I have another question or another comment. I found out about this video a little while ago and found it really useful and have gotten in touch with the support people a couple of times. And it's been very helpful. They really get right back to you or answer the phone immediately. It's really cool. But I did ask how you could see who had signed in for some hearing that had already occurred. And I found out that the information about who testified or was signed up to testify is not available after, I don't know,
It is
48 hours?
only available for as long as the submit written testimony. So that's 24 hours after the hearing. So for this one, you will be able to get this information until February 7th at 4 p.m. And then once the sign in moves out of the system, then you would have to request it from the committee assistant that it was heard in, or do a public records request.
Okay, because I was told to do a public records request and I was given a way to do that, but I had trouble setting it up because you can have your account set up to do, to do a committee sign in, but it's a different account to do a public records request. And
Yes, and a different
I-
account for bill tracking as well.
oh gosh, okay. Yeah,
that's
so that
because-
for some reason I had difficulty setting that up, so I never did follow through on that. But I also, so the staff of the committee can provide that information also, huh?
Yes, if they have time, they can do it. The difficulty is when, you have a committee assistant who's working more than one committee, and they might be running from committee to committee. And so you do the request and they might not be able to respond to you the next day. But yes, the committee assistant or the public records office should be able to do that.
Do you have any sense of how significant it is that there's vast pro or con support expressed, or do legislators kind of take it with a grain of salt if they know there's a very organized group that's going to get a whole lot of people to sign in, pro or con?
That is politics, and I can't teach on politics. We're nonpartisan, so I can't speak to whether or not or what the members are swayed by.
I would love to know. I wonder who you ask.
You could ask any of the members.
Mhm.
Quite frankly, is who I would ask if I was looking into that. But once I do want to show, once I'm signed into this, I just want to show that it will automatically. So then you would just have to choose your position, whether you're testifying as part of a panel, and then just check the information that it automatically fills for you. Tell them you're not. Oh, see, sometimes it misses things. So I got to put in my state. Tell them I'm not a robot. Once that little green box turns into a check mark, you can hit submit registration.
And
So
we
the
always-
reason why I go through this all the way is to let you know you can save your Zoom link from this page. This is the only time that you will be able to get a Zoom link from the legislative website. Once you navigate away from this page, it is all in the hands of Zoom, and we have no control over that. So if you're testify, you might want to either do a control print for this page. You can select everything with your mouse and do a copy, but just something to save this link. Also, it lets you know that it was actually taken. So if you submitted written testimony and your PDF was too big, it would say, thank you for submitting. There was an error with your PDF. So it is important to notice that this confirmation page will tell you whether or not your testimony was actually submitted or whether there was an issue with it. And this is where you have this Zoom. And then if you're signed in to do this, you'll notice we don't have the login button up here. We have sign in history. So you can come back and it'll list all of your different sign-ins. You can click on it and you can edit it. So if you needed to change something, or you can delete the registration completely.
They're really good about sending emails to people who sign up to testify. And if you put it in the attend folder, you're going to get it. And the committee that I've been testifying for most in the House sends an email reminder also that it's in an hour. So
Mhm.
Yes.
we're very close to the end of time, not the end of time, but the end of our time here.
The end of days. I'm sorry.
Susan said she
I-
missed let's see, first step to setting up an account, but I'm not sure which account, what category to hit on the website. And Susan, maybe you'll have to unmute and tell us.
Yeah, I apologize. I missed that 1 second where you started out how to set up an account.
Yeah.
What's my first step?
So when you come in and you do the participating in the process, and then you choose whichever of these three, Once you get to this CSI page, it's going to be right here in the right-hand menu where it says log in, and it's a little misleading because you're like, log in, I don't have my information. From this login page, you'll do the sign up now. Don't have an
Okay, thank-
account, sign up now. Yeah.
Thank you.
We only have a
when you
couple
do sign
seconds
in-
left, so I just wanted to show you from our main page on the left-hand menu again at the Legislative Information Center. It's the second from the bottom on that left side menu. You can get to the class we watched today, Understanding the Legislative Process. We have 2 website classes, Navigating the Legislative Website, which will go over a lot of what we went over today. There's also an advanced legislative website use. And then in that, we have busted out from that 2 separate trainings. So the advanced legislative website use will go over bill tracking and the legislative search. But all of these videos, they link you to the YouTube video and you can watch them at your convenience. Also, all of the contact information for the Legislative Information Center. If you forget any of this, please, I cannot tell you how happy we are to answer all of your questions. And people are always worried, I think this is such a beginner level thing, or I should know this, or I feel so embarrassed that I don't know this. Don't. We explain to people the difference between a federal and a state government on the regular. Whatever question you have is not nearly as ridiculous as you think it is.
There's Karen, do you have a question? I see your hand is up. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, and this is actually a true confession, but on Friday evening, I was trying to do a pro and con sign in on a bill and over an hour, and then discovered it was a bill that was up for executive session. And so it wasn't showing in the drop-down menu. So that's just in case you get stuck. You may need to go back and check the status of the bill.
Thanks, Karen. They don't accept public comment for executive sessions. They're done with it by that, but they do in each committee hearing that I've been in this session, tell you how many people have signed in pro or con. So your voice is counted, maybe more than once, but you'll know how to avoid that now. I think we're going to have to just, there's one more question from Alpana.
Yeah, I just want the companion bill that she talked, it cut off actually in between. And I couldn't hear what exactly she said. What is a companion bill? How
Yeah.
do you define? And then your voice was cut off, so I couldn't hear that.
So if there's a companion bill, it will be linked on the bill's information page that we went on. And a companion bill is when the exact same language of a bill is filed in both the Senate and the House.
Thank you.
So they start off as the same bill, but as they move through the process, they might not become the same bill. I did just jump into our online store from our main page because I wanted to let y'all know that they're not ready yet for 2023, but about mid, we'll have pictorial guides to the legislature, telephone directories. Everybody in the state of Washington has a right to get 1 free copy of the roster posters, 1 free copy of each of these. We have maps as well. Some of these are paid for, however, some of them are also free. So there is a ton of resource information in this section on our LIC under online order form, and a ton of it is free. And by statute, the things that do cost money are the cost of production, not to like turn a profit on them.
Thank you so much, Laura, for all the information that you've provided for us and great presentation. Thanks so much, especially when you haven't been feeling well. We really appreciate it. And I think that maybe this is going to have to come first in order next time. We need to know this information up front because we just need it sooner. So with that, Cindy, are we ready to stop recording? And we'll stay on.